Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Joker 2 news. Joker Folie à Deux. Now, of course, we know that Lady Gaga is going to be playing Harley Quinn. A lot of people were questioning that it's going to be a musical, but this kind of explains it. So, Joker Folie à Deux is sounding, reportedly, it's going to be playing out from Harley Quinn's perspective. So it kind of makes sense. You know, it's not the world perceived through the Joker's eyes. Or at least, you know, at least I'm saying it makes sense to me. That's how I am justifying the change, the radical change. The world is being, you know, we're peering through this world through someone else's eyes. So viewing it from a musical perspective, I mean, that it's the sort of bouts of insanity that Harley Quinn goes through, I guess. That's the element, I guess, maybe. But, I mean, let's take a look, right? So we've got this piece of news, and we also have some casting news as well. And side note, I guess, before we get started, what do we think of Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn? Good or bad? Personally, I think the role's could be good for her. I think this is someone who has transitioned well from one media to another. Now, I'm not going to say that every singer should try and transition to acting. I think that has been, you know, an unfortunate sell to a good few musicians, and hasn't worked out well for them or us, quite frankly. You know, i.e. basically they can't act in my view. But Lady Gaga is someone who has done well in roles. You know, she can actually act. And I know a lot of people will probably say no, that's not the case. But genuinely, I personally believe she can act. So I think this kind of role could be very, very interesting to show her range and sort of her take on Harley Quinn. But like I said, let's get into this now. So we're obviously drawn closer to the production of Joker Folie à Deux. And that's because cameras are scheduled to begin rolling in LA and New York literally 2 months' time, November. Which, that's rolled around quickly. It goes to show that this film has sat and not languished in development hell, but I think people were, for some reason, reluctant to greenlight it. I mean, Joker made $1 billion without China. It was the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. It made more profit than Endgame because of the profit and loss. Obviously, the production budget was less than Endgame, or whatever. It made more money, basically. So it's odd that they took so long to greenlight it. But, you know, Warner Brothers get sold. Zaslav's in charge. Boom. It gets greenlit. So good, at least in that metric. But anyway, we are now obviously getting loads of details because it's going to get started. So we recently learned that the majority of the movie will take place in Arkham Asylum. I like that as a setting. It makes sense that it would be, you know, with Lady Gaga there playing Harleen Quinzel. Cool. If that's going to be her role, we don't know. If that's the way they're going to take it. And I will say this as well. I wonder if they're going to use this opportunity to tie it to Matt Reeves' The Batman. Probably not. But there are still ways you could do that. You know, have this Joker and then a Joker inspired by the Joker, so on and so forth. There are ways of doing it. But it's just speculation, and I doubt they will. Of course they won't. There's now a new rumour that may explain the musical elements. So, Weekly Planet podcast. Lady Gaga, Harley Quinn will have a bigger role than originally reported, with the story playing out entirely from her perspective. Apparently this is where the song and dance numbers come in, as Harleen Quinzel views her relationship with Joker through musical sequences. So it is that sort of psychosis element. And they say this, of course, the title Folie à Deux suggests that Fleck will share these delusions because it's essentially a state of being. It's shared delusional perspective. That's Folie à Deux. It's a shared delusion between two people. So the name does suggest, that Joaquin Phoenix, Arthur Fleck will experience all of that as well. Now, it is an interesting way to move into a sequel. I think this is quite smart. I don't have an issue with the musical numbers. I think for a movie that was so different, yet obviously reminiscent, Taxi Driver, etc., I think moving from this into something a little bit more out there for a sequel, I don't hate it. I think it could come across. Obviously, it still could be really bad, but I think it could be very, very good. Now, Joaquin Phoenix, Zazie Beetz are set to reprise their respective roles as Arthur Fleck and Sophie Dumond, and we recently learned that Brendan Gleeson, Catherine Keener, and Jacob Lofland have also joined the cast. This goes into this news here. So Jacob Lofland will be apparently a key Arkham Asylum role. So I think first and foremost, let me know what you think about Lady Gaga being Harley Quinn and the movie being from her perspective, I guess, and that being how they work in the musical numbers. Good or bad way of doing it? Does it change your outlook on it? Let me know. But anyway, like I said, we got The Hollywood Reporter reporting that Lofland will play an inmate at the asylum who develops a relationship with Arthur Fleck, aka the Joker. So this is the individual. Lofland made his debut opposite Matthew McConaughey and Ty Sheridan, 2013's Mud, and has also appeared in Maze Runner movies and AMC's The Sun. So, I mean, it's interesting. I don't think this is... it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. They got a big budget for this film by comparison to what the original was. $150 million budgeted. I think the original was $60 million. I could be wrong, it was 60 or 90, but it wasn't very much. So it'll be interesting to see how this progresses from here. But what do you guys think? Joker, Folie à Deux? Let me know down below.